Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Snow. This is a podcast for female entrepreneurs. It's a podcast for women who are starting or growing or taking their businesses to the next level. And it's for women who want to do that in a different way than how a lot of the experts are telling you that you have to do it. It's for women who want to create a business that feels good to them in a way that they want to run their business. And so today I'm interviewing Jenna Banks on your relationship with your power container. And this is such an important topic when it comes to how and when and why you are growing your business. Because if you don't pay attention and keep that power container full, you're going to burn out, or you're going to keep doing the stuff and wondering why you're not getting a return on your investment. So for the sake of your work-life balance, for the sake of your family and your honey and your kids and your own sanity, listen to this episode with Jenna Banks on your relationship with your power container. Hello, Jenna. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I am really excited to be here today with you, Melissa.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you. This is actually like the second or third time that we have done an interview together. I've been on your show, you were on my previous show, and now here we are again. And our paths are so aligned. So I'm so excited for what you've got going on and what you have to share with the listeners today. So before we dive in, tell everybody just a little bit about you and who you are, what you do.
Well, my name is Jenna Banks. I'm an author, speaker, a social impact entrepreneur, actually a bit of a serial entrepreneur. That's pretty much it.
So let's talk about your book. It's behind you in the video. I Love Me More.
Yes,
everybody
right
who listens to the podcast knows I was a dating coach for 6 years. I had a single women's book club. We read your book. It was one of everybody's favorites.
Oh, yay.
But it's not just for single women, right? It's for all women.
Yes, definitely not. It's for all women. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Probably
book.
like 18 and up for sure.
Yeah. Great book. We loved it. We had some really good conversations come out of that book. So thank you for that. And tell us a little bit about your experience as an entrepreneur.
So I love being an entrepreneur. It's just part of my blood, I feel like. I started back in the 90s and I would go in and out of being an entrepreneur, and then I'd appreciate going back into corporate because, as you know, being an entrepreneur, everything is on the line. It's your money. It's a hard push. You're not necessarily working less time. You're often working more time. So it's nice to go back to a cushy 9 to 5 and appreciate your employer for paying your bills. Like, that's really nice. But yeah, I was lucky to fall into what I enjoyed doing in my early 20s. It was in the promotional marketing product space. And I love products. I just love being creative, and products, three-dimensional items really did it for me. And so I would, like I said, I had a few different ventures. I even started a board game company with a partner. We ended up getting our board game made into small children's games that were included in Arby's Kids Meals, millions of them. That was really one of our great accomplishments. Of course, we got into Toys R Us and all the stores and such. But that was fun, which led me into my next career, which was in the toy and games company or industry. And then I had my last business that I sold in 2019. So I started it in 2012, sold it in 2019, and I sold it for exactly the asking price that I wanted because, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, I'm sure, but it had to do with owning my value and my worth. Yes. And I knew what I was worth. I knew what the worth of the company I built. I knew what it was worth to me. And that's what mattered. And I stuck with that. And by sticking with my guns, I got exactly what I was worth and what my business was worth. And I also said to the universe, if I get my asking price, I will then write this book. I will then pursue all these other dreams and ideas that I have, just leveling up in life, which has always been a constant strive of mine, is really striving to, be the best version of me, right? Live to my fullest potential. I know I have a lot in me, and I wanted to see what else I was capable of. So I wanted to start a speaking career, do this book, and to see where that led me. And it led me to creating my show, the Jenna Banks show, which has been evolving. It's been great. I started it in 2021, just started season 2. And what else? I started, I'm also authoring an email series. I don't know if you know this, Melissa, but it's called Love Notes to Myself. It is a follow-up to I Love Me More, the book, because, it's one thing with any book to read it and you even read it once or twice and you absorb the information. But I don't know about you, but for me, I need repetitive information, especially key points. If you're not going to encounter those issues in everyday life, you might forget, oh yeah, that's how I remember so-and-so handling that. I read about that one. So Love Notes to Myself is a really cool follow-up. And it's actually been cool to evolve as an author in writing these love notes, in that not only is it a follow-up to the book and a nice way to remind yourself, oh yeah, I do need to love me more. I do need to put myself first. Oh yeah, it's not selfish. That's right. Because I was just thinking that the other day. I was thinking that was selfish, but it's not. No, I need to prioritize my needs. But also just for me to pursue this whole concept of love and power, in that, our love really is our power. And that is my trademark tagline for a reason. It's just so deep, that phrase, your love is your power. And I have this whole concept around that, the power container. And me as an author, and a researcher and all of that, I just keep researching more about love and thinking, oh my God, love is everything. It really is everything. And so Love Notes to Myself is a further exploration of love and how it relates to our personal power.
I love that. What a brilliant idea. That's awesome. I can tell that you are a serial entrepreneur, because I feel like every time I talk to you, you have like 3 more projects that are your like brainchilds that you're like, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try this. I love it. So let's dive into that idea of a power container. You touched on it a little bit, but that's what we're going to talk about today in our interview. So what is a power container?
Yeah. So imagine each of us has our own power container, and it rests like in our soul area. Imagine it like a battery, right? And this is the analogy I like to use. You have a cell phone, right? Each and every one of us has to have a cell phone today. You wouldn't imagine coming home and not plugging in your phone at the end of the day to make sure it's charged up for tomorrow. And you also know you've got to do that every single day. And you might need to do a little quick charge through the day because you've used it too much. It's exactly the same concept with the power container. We each have our own internal battery, and we're either charging ourselves up or we're draining our power. And so that is the concept behind the power container framework, is that it allows you to kind of tune in and say, oh, I'm drained. I'm feeling drained. I need to do something to charge up. And ultimately, it's our responsibility to plug in our power container and charge up. It's up to nobody else to make us happy, to fulfill us. We really have to do all of that ourselves. And so, that's what that framework is all about.
I love that idea. I learned something similar. I can't remember the book that I read, but when I was a teacher, I remember reading a book that talked about how certain activities are energy givers and certain activities are energy takers, and being aware of which is which and how much of each that you're doing is a game changer, really, whether you are a career woman or you are a stay-at-home mom, maybe even more importantly, if you're a stay-at-home mom or you're an entrepreneur, like no matter what you're doing, you've got to have the awareness of that.
Totally. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And so the power container does give you a great framework for that. I'm sure it's also mentioned in things like filling up your cup, right? Or give from the overflow. It's all the same concept, but what does that mean and how do you practice it? And so I really like the power container in that it gives you that visual and the comparison with the battery, and it does relate to power, and it really does help you look at things differently. So,
yeah. And I think power to me is a little more active as opposed to energy, which is a little more passive. Energy is like, to me, I feel like it's like, what do I have? What's given to me? What's taken from me? But power is like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Right.
Love that, Melissa.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can use that. You can use that if you want.
Thanks.
Copyright. So what are the things that typically take away from someone's power container? And is it different for everybody?
There are many things, and I'll cover a few today because we only have so much time, but I'll cover the big ones. All right. So one of the big ones for me, especially, is boundary crossing. And I found that in talking to many other women, it's a big deal for a lot of us, especially if we've had any kind of trauma in our background. Boundaries, if we didn't learn to set and protect boundaries. And also, I will say that as women in particular, we were raised with something, what I like to call nice girl syndrome. And again, that goes under the boundary crossing issue. So basically, the nice girl syndrome is where we are taught to be nice despite how we're feeling, which ends up in self-abandonment, which is the opposite of self-love, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are taught that. So for example, I'll give you a quick example. Let's say your uncle comes over and he makes you uncomfortable. You don't know him very well. And you're just shying, you're 7 or 8 years old. You're shying away from your uncle. You're not saying hi when he says hi. I know a lot of little girls like this. And mom goes, be a nice girl, go up and give your uncle a hug.
Yep.
I don't want to give him a hug. Do it for mommy. You got to be a nice girl. And you get this constant programming that what you feel doesn't matter. Don't tune into your instinct. Don't trust how you feel. If you're uncomfortable, it doesn't matter. What's more important is to be seen as nice.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get used to that programming and we carry it into adulthood, myself included. I've had to work very hard to undo this, and really kind of reprogram that to, I'm not being mean. This isn't now I'm mean girl. I'm just being kind to myself first.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I love that.
And so that causes that boundary crossing. So for example, someone could say something to you that makes you uncomfortable, but you were programmed to be the nice girl. So you won't say anything. And you just get so used to like squelching down how you truly feel and not honoring yourself. We're not even aware of it. We're not even tuned into what that feels like to be in our power like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a huge energy drain because we're just basically letting people take our power from us. We're draining it, we're leaking it all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
then we get home and we're like, I feel like crap, but I don't know why.
Exactly. And we don't know why, because it's so unconscious. We've been doing it all day long. We're so used to it. We think we're doing the right thing. We're behaving the way we were trained to behave, but we still feel drained. Why? And so it's just becoming consciously aware of, how am I truly feeling? Is this person making me feel uncomfortable? Do I not like to be in the company of this person? Do I not want to go to that party? Do I not want to say yes to this thing that I really want to say no to?
Mm-hmm.
And when you start honoring yourself and saying, no, that's a boundary of mine. I don't do that. I won't say that. I won't, invite that into my life. I don't want that energy around me. It's huge, because that can really stop a major leakage of power.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What are the other things, some of the other main things that take away from your power container?
Another big one, as it relates to women, and especially in the workplace or as entrepreneurs, is not valuing our time and attention. Certainly this crosses over into our personal lives as well. That's a big one. And I do talk about that in the book too. But I've seen this play out in the workplace, and also in our own businesses as entrepreneurs countless times. So for example, in the workplace, I have a friend who she had been working for a company straight out of college. And she was a dedicated employee. She would work late nights, weekends, really just thought, great, I'm going to be promoted. I'm going to get that raise. And it just wouldn't happen. And she'd see her bosses get promoted over and over again on the back of her work. Mm-hmm. And yet she was one of those who didn't, like most of us women, we don't talk about our accomplishments at work. We don't want to come off as braggy or conceited. So we don't speak up in a meeting and say, hey, it was really great to lead that project or do this thing. And so as a result, people didn't know what she had done because she wasn't advocating for herself. And one day she got sick of it. It was, unfortunately for her, several years into being on the job. But she finally goes in and says, hey, you know what? I've done all this work and I should have been promoted by now. And she was upset, and she was literally willing to quit. And they were like, wow, we had no idea. We didn't know. But she then had spoke all her value, all her worth to HR. And they were like, wow, we yeah, you're a valuable employee. We don't want to lose you. So they suddenly started promoting her. Now she is literally she just took a job as the president of one of their North American unit.
Yes.
Imagine if she had never stood up for her value and her worth, where she would be today.
Yeah.
And that drains you because gosh, I feel like I'm worth more than this. But if you don't claim it and own it and be willing to walk away from jobs, clients, relationships where you don't feel valued and worthy and say, you know what, I'm going to go where I am valued. Nothing's going to change. And it's a major drain because, again, you come home feeling bad, complaining, miserable. You don't really understand why, but not valuing our time and attention is another major, major drain. And I'll give you another one. Definitely plagues women more than men. In fact, there's data around this. Worry and guilt. Another one that plagues us women, unfortunately, far more than men. In fact, women in North America are twice as likely to experience anxiety disorders and have to get medicated and all of that. Twice as likely as men. Why is that? Because we spend so much time worrying and also feeling guilty. And I know way too many friends who have had to kind of talk off a ledge due to guilt and make them realize, like, why is this guilt driving, your behavior? Let's take a look at that and, see, is it what would happen if you didn't give in to the guilt? Right. Let's say, so for example, I talk about this in the book too, by the way, that, have a friend who decided to change a behavior pattern and do something where she normally would cook for her boyfriend at home. And she knew he was going to be there, but she went to go have lunch or dinner with a friend, and she felt guilty for not being there to cook dinner. And I was like, well, why are you feeling so guilty about this? And she's like, well, I don't know. What do you do for dinner? I go, well, what do you think he's going to do? She's like, he's probably going to, pull out a frozen meal or something like that and play games, play video games, whatever. I was like, is that such a bad thing? Do you think he's going to miss, do you think he's going to feel bad that you're not there, or he's just going to go on about his day? She's like, yeah, he's probably going to go on about his day. And I was like, and look what will happen to you. You're going to sit there feeling guilty at dinner with your friend because that's what happened. And come to find out, Melissa, feelings of guilt that we let drive our behavior actually are more indicative of breaking a pattern of behavior. So instead of it being something that tells us we're doing something wrong, like we think it is, it's actually just a change in behavior. And it feels like guilt. So if we get into the guilt and we just go, I'm going to go back to that pattern, we're never going to break past this power drain. It's a constant. So we just let it drive our behavior, and we're giving so much of our valuable energy and time to guilt and worry instead of looking at it for what it is and saying, there's no good that's going to come out of this.
Right.
And especially worry. Let's take a look at worry. My grandmother, God bless her, she died at the lovely age of 96. And to the day she died, she was constantly worrying about everybody.
Yep.
And it did nobody any good. And it didn't help her in any way. And it
didn't change the outcome.
Didn't change the outcome. And yet and that really got to me when I knew my grandmother couldn't get over worry till the day she died. I was like, God, can we please just break this habit as women, and realize that it's not, it mostly plagues us. Guys get away without living their lives without all the worry. Why do we have to give in to this, So yeah, that's a major power drain for me. When the worry comes up, I go, you know what? This is not love. This is a fear-based belief. It's not based in love. And I need to just go back to the love. Like, what is it that I'm trying to accomplish in my life? I could worry about changing this behavior pattern and the worry is causing me a little stress and anxiety, or I can go, no, I'm going to give myself love. I'm going to get through this. And on the other side, I'm going to be reaching my goals and not doing anything wrong. Don't need to feel guilty. And because the thing is, Melissa, if you bring love into everything you do, everyone feels it around you. So all those people you're worried about, upsetting or hurting or They're not going to, get what they're used to getting from me. And you just bring love into it, everything works out.
Yeah.
Everything works out because love is the greatest power there is in the universe. Just got to give yourself love. You got to bring love into what you do. Forget about the guilt and worry. Yeah. So those are the three big drains, especially for us in business and as entrepreneurs, for sure.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So what about the things that give us more energy? I'm assuming love is one of them.
Definitely love, but I like to actually, so I call like self-love kind of stopping the drains. It's more of the internal work that we've got to do on ourselves that rooted in self-love in order to stop those drains. And self-care is charging up. So for example, self-care is a big one. So how, when you think of self-care, most of us think of something like, oh, taking a vacation, getting a massage. Like it's going to take a little time and energy to go do this. But I actually like to charge up every single day, what I call like a little charge. I call it my joy list. It's just a small list of simple, easy things that quickly get me in my happy place. So if you think of your power container as a battery and you just need that quick little lightning bolt charge, if every day you practice something from your joy list, and what the joy list is just something super simple that gets you in a good place. It could be listening to music, going for a walk when it's nice outside, take a break on lunch and just take 30 minutes and go walk in the sun. That charges me up, especially if I'm listening to music at the same time, reading your favorite whatever books. I love spiritual books. They give me a charge. Like instantly, I have my favorite Deepak Chopra books. I always feel so great when I read any of his text. But, it looks differently for everybody. People I know get a charge from it. They love cooking, whatever it is for you. If you go, you know what, I'm going to cook every day this week or 3 days this week or tonight, I feel like I need to do something that for me that I love doing. And so, yeah, whatever that, phone a friend that makes you laugh, watch funny animal videos. That's a big one for me, like laughing and being goofy and silly. So just making sure you make room for that throughout your day, you'll find that it just fills your soul, your power container up. And so definitely making time for that. It's not like I'll get to it when I have time. It's like a necessity, right? Like charging in up your cell phone.
Yeah, absolutely. So self-love is how you stop the drains and self-care is how you charge up.
Yep. So another one is investing in yourself. That's a big one because you can always be investing in ourselves. I'm always investing in myself. How about you, Melissa? I have a feeling you are too.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it could be like updating your headshots, on LinkedIn to, attract new business or to, build your personal brand, or it could be taking a new course. I invested heavily in myself when I sold my business and got expensive speaker training. I definitely hired a photographer and did all of that. And, and it's a charge. Like it makes you feel really good about yourself. It tells you that you're worth it. Right. And it builds your sense of self-worth. And that has a much longer lasting charge effect because you tell yourself you're worth it. And then that reflects to the outside world. And the outside world says, oh gosh, she's worth it. And so keeping that cycle of investing in yourself in some way, whether it's, taking a course, getting headshots, what are some other ways that we can invest in ourselves? Getting a financial advisor, learning how to do Airbnbs. That's an investment in yourself. Like, there's all kinds of ways that we can invest in ourselves. So
and it doesn't necessarily have to be something like hugely expensive too. I think that was part of the trap that I fell into when I was a newer entrepreneur is like, oh, I have to invest in myself. You have to spend money to make money. And so I would like hire these $10,000 coaches and join these $10,000 masterminds and pay all this money for this fancy website that I didn't really need. And, I think there's definitely ways as you're talking, I'm like, how can you invest in yourself also without spending a ton of money, even if it's just something like reading a book
That's
or,
right.
joining a membership that's $30 or $40 a month and going all in on what they have to offer. Like there's a lot of ways. I think I just don't want people listening to this thinking like, oh, well, when I'm making six figures, then I'll invest in myself. Like you can and should start investing in yourself now. And there's ways to do that.
100%. I'm so glad you brought that up. I just paid $11.99 a month for another, app subscription on Roku, but it's an investment in me. It's more of a spiritual oriented app, and I love that. It just makes me feel great, and it invests into my knowledge base. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg. Absolutely.
Yeah,
but it's a big difference than buying a Gucci bag.
Totally. You can't buy a Gucci bag and call it an investment in yourself.
Now, updating your wardrobe is an investment in yourself. Absolutely.
True.
Yeah.
True. Absolutely. Okay. So self-love, self-care, investing in yourself. Any other ones that are big ones as far as filling the power container?
Absolutely. So another one, a big one that I practice all the time. It might not sound big, but it is. It's celebrating your wins, big or small. Or you could also say patting yourself on the back.
I love this one.
I like it calling patting yourself on the back. I had this huge epiphany. One day I was playing tennis. It was a grueling tennis game and I was beating myself up. I mean, this was just a normal behavior pattern. Like, oh God, you missed that. I was starting to lose. And so I was just like, Jenna, why'd you do that? You know how we talk to ourselves. Anyone who plays any kind of sports will probably relate, not negative self-talk. And I was like, God, every time I do that, I feel like it's bringing me down, draining my power container, I was like, no. You know what? I'm going to start encouraging myself and being my own cheerleader and patting myself on the back. I just started. And actually I noticed when I got a point and I started saying, hey, Jenna, good job. In recognizing what I did, like you really placed that ball well. Great serve. And so I started doing it every single time. I was proud of myself and I felt freaking great. Now, mind you, this game had gone on for 3.5 hours at this point.
Oh my gosh.
It was a league, like a semifinals. And my competitor and I were really evenly matched. And I'm like, man, just give this up. It's the heat of, dead middle of summer, super hot outside. I was exhausted. I didn't have enough food. I'd already ran out of my water and my food. And I was like, let's just lose so we go. But I started patting myself on the back and literally increased my energy. And I was like, okay, Jenna, when we're done with this game, you got to like journal about this because there's something here.
Yeah.
And it literally, I started integrating that into my day. To this day, I practice this every single day. I do something that I'm proud of, like crossing everything off my checklist for the day. I take a moment and I'm like, good job, Jenna. Yeah. And I might actually literally put my hand on my shoulder and pat myself on the back and recognize what I did. If I wrote a great email that resulted in me getting a deal, getting a speaking gig, whatever, I'm like, you did it. Great job. You are getting closer to what you're trying to do here. So you got to pat yourself on the back because far too often we bring ourselves down like I was doing in my tennis game, right? We go, dang, Jenna, you really could have done that better or whatever. And that is our habit, which is draining versus powering ourselves up by celebrating our wins. Of course, on the big ones, take the time to go celebrate with someone, go. When I sold my business, I made sure that I had a celebratory occasion with a bunch of friends, a party at my house, and we toasted. I got the good champagne. We did it.
And a new Gucci purse.
I did other stuff.
This is the part where the Gucci purse comes in.
That's exactly right. I treated myself because I had a big accomplishment that I needed to celebrate. Yeah. It's really important. And I think we blow that off. I know I was, especially as an ambitious woman, I think a lot of us are programmed that way. We kind of brush off. We get to the goal and then we just go, okay, and then we move on. But I think it's super important to like marinate in it. It's not selfish. It's not narcissistic. It charges you up, and we need that energy to move forward in all the other great stuff we want to do in life.
Yeah, I agree. Because most of what I see my clients do when they get a big win, especially like I like the idea of saying pat yourself on the back, because I think when we say celebrate your win, sometimes we think that needs to be something huge.
Exactly.
But I see my clients, like even when they get a new client or they make a sale or they fill up their webinar or whatever it is, instead of stopping to celebrate that and like, I did that, let's look at how I created that. That was a fluke. I definitely can't do it again. They only signed up because it's free. No one's actually going to come. Like, right. We come up with all of these reasons, like why we can't celebrate it. And I think not only does that drain our energy in the moment, but it also then sets us up to go into the next thing with our energy already drained, right? If I'm looking at this like, oh, I filled this program and I did that, like that's what I created. Next time it's time for me to fill a program. Now I'm pumped because I know I did it before. Whereas going into the next one thinking, oh, that was just a fluke. It only happened because X, Y, and Z. Now I'm not nearly as pumped to go into the next thing.
Girl, I'm so glad you brought that up. The things we say to ourselves matter. Look at all that self-talk.
Yeah.
We're just doing there. It's like, well, I'm not going to be able to, that was a fluke. We believe what we tell ourselves.
1,000,000%.
Believe it. So we need to be telling ourselves good things about ourselves because we believe that. And if we say it to ourselves over and over again, our brain assimilates to that. Like, oh, she is capable. She can do this. And you can then feel like you can take on any new task or project. As entrepreneurs, we're especially having to learn new things all the time. We need that energy to accomplish these big things, these big goals that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And to celebrate the smaller wins and the pat yourself on your back. Like, oh, I signed up for LinkedIn and I've been resisting it forever because I think I don't know about technology. Or I made my first post on Instagram, or like even things that we want to say like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. People do that all the time. Like for you, it's a big deal. So good for you.
Yes, that's exactly it. Even small things like I wanted to clean my house today. I did it. Good job. You can be proud of yourself for anything and do it. Like just like if you're proud of yourself, it's not stupid. Like if you are proud of yourself, take the moment and go, yeah, I actually am. The house looks super clean. Thank goodness there's no more dishes in the sink. Yay me. Like it's really
I hate doing laundry. So when I do laundry twice a month, I celebrate the shit out of that.
I love it.
I tell everyone I know. I'm like, I did laundry today. Boom.
That's awesome.
Okay. So you mentioned the joy list. Is there anything else that you can recommend to people who are listening who want to start implementing something today to either not drain their energy container or their power container so much, or to fill it up a little bit more?
I would just say this was the big one. This is how you tune into yourself every day. So if you have a journaling practice, you might want to try this. Just start the day's journal with, how is my power container feeling today? Am I feeling
such a good question?
Yeah, because you can give yourself your own answers. If you're not even tuning in to see how you feel, then where do you start? So I like to start with that. Like, how am I feeling? Am I feeling kind of depleted? Then I can journal about why. Am I letting my boundaries cross? Like, was there something that happened yesterday where I didn't stand up for myself and let a boundary get crossed? Is there something I need to work out there and journal there and, pay attention to for the future? Am I not taking care of myself? Am I not practicing self-care? I like to get foot massages. And then, if I do that a couple of times a month, I just feel so good about myself. I like buying myself flowers. I see you've got some beautiful flowers behind you, Melissa. It's important to do those things for ourselves that make us feel good about ourselves. And so that's why tuning in to see how you feel could then give you a chance to figure out if you're letting things, yourself get drained. Are you people pleasing? Are you saying yes when you want to say no? Or are you not spending time on charging up? So that is a big one.
That's a really good one. So asking yourself, how is my power container feeling today? Is it full? Is it drained? What's going on that's making me feel that way? And then you can kind of dictate where you go from there based on where your powder container is at.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
It's all
love
about
that.
feeling it. And as you mentioned, energy, it all relates to our energy levels, right? We could tell, how do we feel? Do we feel energized, powered up, charged up, like full on battery life? Or do we feel half full or drained? And so learning to tune into that also as a spiritual practice is a big thing as well. You know, I learned from Eckhart Tolle's book, Power of Now. There was something he said in there that really stood out to me. And I know each of us kind of gets our own little things out of books that really stand out to us and that resonate with our souls. But he mentioned something about always keeping some of your attention in your body at all times. And I was like, that is so interesting. I'm going to start practicing that. And so many years ago, I just started putting attention to my body and practicing consciously, because it takes time to build up this as a practice, consciously while I was working, like sending out emails, making phone calls, saying, ooh, like I had to remind myself, like, am I still attached to my body? Do I still feel my power container? I didn't call it that then, but my soul area. And once you do that, you can start to, and then it feels really good. You start to build that mind-body connection, and then it just becomes second nature. And then you can all day long be tuned in to how you're feeling. And then when the boundary gets crossed, or you feel yourself going into people-pleasing mode, you feel the drain, and you also feel what charges you up. And so you can start to tune in more in the moment.
Yeah. The awareness is huge.
Yeah.
For sure. This is such good stuff. I think you've given so many good little nuggets that are going to help women be more aware of their power container, and also a lot of great ideas for how we can stop the drain and fill up the power container even more. So thank you so much. If people who are listening want to connect with you further or learn more about what you do, what's the best way for them to do that?
Easiest way is through my website, jenna-banks.com, because there's links to everything there. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of that. And then also you can see what I'm up to. I've got a link to my book, Love Notes to Myself, which by the way is free. So it's that daily little tiny little love notes. Actually, it's funny. I write these in the style of like a love note coming to you from you, like your inner voice. So, you know, you might see like, hey, baby doll, happy Monday.
Love it.
But you know what? Again, with that charge, there's something about feeling that love coming to you.
Yeah.
It feels good. It feels good to feel those things about yourself, that you're loved, that you're cared for. And then to get those self-love reminders, you know, just little nuggets, each very, you know, super early in the morning, they come into your inbox, and it's free. So for anyone who wants to just kind of check that out, they can sign up on my website as well.
Love it. I will put the link to your website in the show notes so everyone can connect with you in the ways that work best for them. And thank you so much, Jenna. This has been awesome.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Your Relationship With podcast. I wanted to let you know that the doors to the Powerful Women Rising community are about to open back up. So this is your chance to join an amazing group of supportive, like-minded, positive, incredibly smart, growth-minded women who are all looking to grow their business right alongside you. We have masterminds, we have co-working calls, we have expert-led classes, we have networking opportunities, so many things that are exactly what you need in order to start, grow, or take your business to the next level. So if you're interested in finding out more, click on the link in the show notes and come and join us.